And I really want to thank Bob Simon, and everyone here at Peconic Landing. Whenever you come here, you know, you always feel so welcome. Everything's so well run. And I always get the feeling that, and I've been coming here for a lot of years, for various events and whatnot, and I think the community seems to get better and better here all the time. People are so engaged in everything that's going on. And I really, when I got the invite to do this here, I really appreciated it, so thank you for the opportunity. Before we start, I just want to mention there's a bunch of elected officials here. Town board members Ann Smith and Greg Dorosky, town trustee Eric Sepanoski, town judge Dan Ross. I see that town clerk Dennis Noncaro's here, town trustee Nick Krupski, highway superintendent Dan Goodwin. Did I miss anybody? We have a lot of very engaged elected officials. I'm very pleased to see them here. I'm also happy to see a lot of people who are running for office. You know, this is a very good town. It's very encouraging when good people decide to run. It's good to see them engaged, just to find out what's going on and be part of our community. I'm going to start with, there's a bunch of retirements in town, and I feel like I want to mention them first. I wasn't sure when to put them in. And there's some, and as I go through some of my thoughts here, there's some people that are department heads that are leaving town service after a long time. One of them is Tim Abrams from Department of Public Works, one's Lloyd Reisenberg from IT, and one is Kevin Webster, the assessor. And the other one that I had to mention is Louisa Evans, who's the justice for Fisher's Island, and she's our 6th town board member. She's been a town board member for 30 years, and I've worked with her, you know, the whole time, and she has been an outstanding, these are all outstanding public servants, but I got to work closely with Louisa for a long time, and I just want to acknowledge her hard work and wish her well. She's still on the board for another few months, but she's leaving after the end of the year. So welcome to the State of the Town for 2025. I feel honored to serve the town of Southold as supervisor. I'm fortunate to have people working with me in town government who understand what public service really is. I have received reports from 22 different departments, and I'm going to highlight a few things from each department, because everyone works so hard in their departments, and a lot of people don't know what town government does and how big these departments are and what they do. So it's good to go over a few things. The supervisor's main function is the budget, and the work on the 2026 budget is already underway. The past few budgets for all municipalities have been propped up with federal funds. That was helpful for those years, but not for 25 or 26. In government, there are mandated requirements that the public has to comply with, from beach stickers for residents to building permits. These services take staff, space, and planning. There are other tasks that are met by government: road maintenance, water quality efforts, and public safety. All these efforts are supported by competent town staff. Our land preservation program is very well run and successful. This is a voluntary program. To succeed, we need a willing seller, a competent department, and a supply of money to fund the acquisition. Too often in government, things go one way, and then a lot of effort and money is required to fix it. Preserving land is the instant benefit of not increasing everyday traffic, not having to address wastewater treatment, and not funding the demand for greater services. These impacts to our quality of life are hard to quantify because those things never happened. The benefit of open space includes protection of wildlife opportunities, storm resiliency, recreation, and dark skies. The benefit of farmland preservation is the protection of our productive soils from being paved over. That farmland is kept in private hands, so although they provide benefits to the community of scenic value, watershed protection, and local food production, the landowner pays taxes and maintains the property. We are fortunate to have an active partner in preservation in Suffolk County who started the first farmland protection program in the country over 50 years ago. At last year's State of the Town, I highlighted a number of hot issues, and will do the same this year, and some are updates on existing issues and some are new. The first one is the irrigation code. Our water in our aquifer is a resource that is finite. Years ago, there was a lot of irrigation on farms all summer, and the demand on the aquifer was spread out across the whole town. But land use has shifted water demand to a great deal of automatic lawn watering. Public supply wells draw from one concentrated location, automatically drawing water regardless of soil moisture or rainfall event, putting great stress on that part of the aquifer. The USGS, who I worked with, and the DEC as partners have been working for years, mapping Long Island's aquifer. To address the reality that this public resource needs to be managed, the town board recently voted to control the use of automatic lawn sprinkler systems. Working with the town's water advisory committee, including Deputy Supervisor John Stipe, lawn irrigation industry leaders, the Suffolk County Water Authority, legislation was passed to require smart controllers and rain sensors on these systems. By not automatically running during and after rain events, a great deal of water will be saved when it is really needed. Odd and even watering is also included to help the physical pumping, treating, and usage of all that water. Short-term rentals. Last year, the town board authorized the short-term rental task force to address the proliferation of short-term rentals. They drew on information from the community, the New York State Association of Towns, as well as other communities across the country. Based on their recommendations, the town hired a company to track and report on short-term rental activity. Our legal department is currently drafting legislation that will be presented to the community and board in the fall, and we will be holding public hearings on the proposed code. Coastal resiliency. Last year, I spoke about the importance of long-term planning for accounting for sea level rise and how it affects our town infrastructure during storm events and everyday flooding. I don't know if you saw recently, we had a beach dedication for George Sullivan, who was a Marine, and he worked as town tax receiver for years here. He lived in Southold, and he was a great community member, and we dedicated town beach to him right here. All winter long, the highway department and our DPW department got sand and made piles, and you saw it in the parking lot there, and the sand was piled up, and everyone said, when is it gonna be spread? And Tim Abrams, who's retiring from DPW, said he doesn't want to spread it until Memorial Day, till the last second, so we have a beach there for the summer. He spread it just before Memorial Day. We had not even a storm, just a northwest wind. That sand disappeared in one day, all those piles. So we are working, and I know the government liaison, highway superintendent Dan Goodwin, and our town engineer Michael Collins, they are working with the Long Island Sound group to try to find some way to remediate that area, just try to preserve that beach. And I'll talk more about the road there, but to try to preserve that beach, for as long as we can. Mother Nature always has the land for that. This year, my work as a county legislator bore fruit in the county, including in the 2026 capital budget, money for starting the process to raise County Road in 2 identified low spots. This will be a long-term project that will require collaboration between the town highway department and Suffolk County Department of Public Works. So that's something that's gonna start, and who knows when it'll end, but at least that process is starting, and it's in a county plan that recognizes county infrastructure that's at risk during storm events. Next, we're in the middle of setting up a meeting with our 3 state representatives, Senator Anthony Palumbo, Assemblywoman Jody Giglio, and Assemblyman Tommy John Schiavone, with our emergency management team to discuss the conditions and elevation of State Road 25. And the state road is very low, especially between Southold, Hamlet, all the way to Greenport Village. And the elevation of that causes everyone a lot of concern, because we've had sunny day flooding, of course, that doesn't affect it, but during a major storm event, that road is in danger of flooding. All this is under supervision and guidance of the Highway Superintendent, Dan Goodwin, Town Engineer Michael Collins, and Police Chief Stephen Grattan. This ties directly into emergency management. The committee includes IT, DPW, Community Relations, the Police Department, the Highway Department, and the Human Resource Department. We plan on actions and impacts before, during, and after the next storm. We coordinate with other levels of government for communications and resources. We oversee the emergency shelters, including training volunteers and making sure that the locations are properly equipped. Please reference the town's website for more information. We want everyone to be prepared for what will be the next storm. A lot of focus is also on public safety at parades, road closures, and special events. Chief Grattan and the committee have met with local police chiefs and supervisors to network on strategies, and I also have met with the Suffolk County Supervisors Association and Suffolk County Police Commissioner Kevin Catalina on this topic. Everybody's trying to work together on that sort of event and road closure safety. That is only one example of regional collaboration that is going on every day. The supervisors meeting together at the Long Island Association event, Suffolk County Supervisors Association meetings, the East End Supervisors and Mayors Association, and the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Board of Trustees, and the Article 5 and 6 work group are all part of government working together at different levels. A zoning update. This massive project was launched and planned by a previous town board. They hired and directed a consultant to redefine the zoning categories, uses in their zones, and consistency of the definitions. After 2 years of public outreach, including industry-specific meetings, the planning department is collating all the input with the town board to review. Most of the town board members attended the community outreach meetings to listen to the concerns and suggestions. Some of the consultant's suggestions, such as eliminating retail and restaurant uses in business zones, will be changed to continue to allow these existing uses. We will have time as a board to consider the comments from the public and make the necessary changes to the original draft. Self-service. Apparently we're ready to have self-service in Southold. Seems to be consensus on that. Part of the work last year was hiring a business that presented a report to the board last month, addressing the lack of cell coverage in parts of town. Code is being drafted to adjust current restrictions such as height and location, as reliable cell service is a public safety issue. Now, there's a poll that's going on right now. There's a 3-week poll the town put out on their website. If everyone could go to that and take the poll and give us some more input on that. We're really looking for reliable service, and it has escaped us so far. So we're actively seeking input, and then we can engage with the carriers on. The group that we hired is not related to any carriers, so we're getting an unbiased reporting of coverage lapses and suggestions. So I'd appreciate if everyone could do that poll. Community housing. Thanks to the previous town board and supervisor, community members and advocates for all the work that was done in the past to promote community housing. And a lot of the people that are here have worked on it for years. Ann Smith, Brian Mealy, Jill Doherty, Greg Dorofsky, Louisa Evans, and Deputy Supervisor John Stipe. There's so many people who worked on this for years before it became supervisor and advocated for that extra 0.5% community housing fund. And that work was really critical to get us where we are. This year, the town hired Andrea Benavar as a community housing project supervisor. She will work with and under the guidance of the government liaison officer, Gwen Schroeder. They will function as the community development and housing department. They will work with other departments, including planning, and under the direction of the town board, to develop community and workforce housing, using the previously adopted community housing plan as guidance. And that's what I mean as far as that we have a community housing plan that so many community members helped to form a few years ago, and it's been a real benefit in order to move this forward. This is another example of regional collaboration. As I met with the East End supervisors on this topic in the winter to discuss options, rental versus ownership, levels of rent that can be charged, types of housing, public and private partnerships, and much more. The town is investing money not just from the Community Housing Fund, but from many town departments and staffing to create the Community Development and Housing Department, which is great administrative responsibilities. We will learn from past community housing projects and keep this housing affordable in perpetuity. And now I will get into some of the reporting, and it's all there in the handout if anyone wants to look at it in much greater detail. I asked all 22 town departments to provide information, and they did a great job. So accounting and finance, the department head is Michelle Nikonovich. This department is responsible for personnel and payroll processing. The town has 240 full-time, 73 part-time, and 71 seasonal employees, totaling over $24.8 million in payroll. Also, the processing of the Fishers Island Ferry District, 60 employees, totaling $1.8 million, including all associated with holding taxes, income executions, and reporting to the New York State retirement system. Responsible for the budget preparation, the 2025 budget was $91.2 million, so the budget work is an ongoing process to manage 2025's budget, and we're planning and well into 2026's. Board of Assessors, the department head, Kevin Webster. This is a very busy office. They have a professional staff, and like everyone else, work hard to keep up with the ever-increasing reporting requirements imposed on the town. We'd like to thank Kevin Webster for his service. He is leaving at the end of the year. The Board of Trustees, the department head, Glenn Goldsmith, president. The Board of Trustees and the trustee office staff remain busy with wetland permits, coastal erosion hazard area permits, administrative permits, environmental reviews, investigation of constituent concerns, compliance and non-compliance inspections, and pre-submission inspections. They performed approximately 450 applications in 2024. They also performed over 300 additional individual inspections and issued 66 coastal contractor licenses in 2024. The building department head, Michael Verity. The building department is very busy with permitting for construction, rental renewals, permits for items like tents, signs, and swimming pools. This department will be a valuable partner in the zoning update, as the mechanics of the process should be streamlined and coordination with other regulatory partners optimized. Department of Public Works, department head Tim Abrams. He's another department head that'll be leaving at the end of the year in retirement. We own and manage many acres of open space that is managed and monitored both for human use and deer management. Our parks and beaches are in great shape because of their hard work. They also repair everything, including doors and flooring, keeping many of our buildings safe for employees and visitors alike. Engineering and stormwater management, the department head is Michael Collins. The town engineer works very closely with the highway department on stormwater remediation. In 2024, 35 in-house and 6 contracted drainage projects were completed and eliminated 8 outfalls. The 2025 goals include the completion of the design and permitting of the new police station and the design and construction of a new storage barn at the highway department. The outfall elimination, 59% since 2019, has 2 major benefits. One is the elimination of direct discharge of stormwater into our creeks and bays. This prevents loading of pathogens, nutrients, and sediment that would otherwise, the highways were all designed to direct all that runoff into our creeks and bays. Now we're spending a lot of time and money and effort reversing that. This keeps the waters open to bathing and shellfishing. I get daily reports from Suffolk County Health Department. There are a lot of beach closures in Suffolk County and in other parts of the county all summer long. I can imagine what people would say if our beaches were closed to swimming here. It would not be a happy place. So we do a lot of that stormwater work to prevent that. We've been doing that kind of stormwater work for a long time. We borrow money to do it. This year we borrowed $500,000 to do it. The last few years have been $250,000 because we're committed to keeping the beaches open, and we're committed to having clean water to support aquaculture as an industry. There's another benefit to eliminating the outfalls in that all the stormwater is captured and it recharges our aquifer. All that fresh stormwater would otherwise be lost into the creeks and bays, and it should be directed right down into our aquifer. The government liaison, department head is Gwen Schroeder. The government liaison officer works closely with multiple departments on special event applications and works on constituency issues and outreach to newspapers and radio ads. This department was tasked pre-COVID with affordable housing responsibilities and now has a newly hired community development project supervisor to work on these projects. Because the town has money coming in from the community housing fund, this department has better opportunities to facilitate workforce housing. Highway department head Dan Goodwin. Townwide continued and expanded tree removal and pruning program to limit the hazardous trees, as well as preemptively remove ones that are in poor condition and pose a risk during storms. Most notable was working with PSE&G as a utility partner to identify not only hazardous trees, but also storm hardening pruning areas to increase system reliability and reduce power outages. This combined our local knowledge with their line clearance skill to trim all of the transmission circuits in town and removal of several dozen hazardous trees within the boundaries of the power lines. Drainage. The new and enhanced drainage installed at 42 locations in town solved several more legacy issues. Tied the drainage program to our town paving program to ensure the longevity of the road surface and eliminate many problem areas. Continued removal of straight pipe outfalls to prevent direct discharge of stormwater. The new highway barn in Peconic is designed as dry storage for the fleet to keep our vehicles out of the weather. This will increase their useful lifespan, which is very important given the dramatic increase in truck and equipment costs. The Human Resource Center, department head Jacqueline Martinez. They delivered an astonishing 23,752 meals in 2024. Congregate meals well over 11,000, and emergency shelf-stable meals 1,560, and provided over 3,600 trips for services and over 6,500 hours of adult daycare at the Katinka House. They are constantly trying to figure out better ways of serving our population, and they do a very good job there. They're very responsive. The staff works closely with the Suffolk County Office for the Aging, Eastern Long Island Hospital, the Family Service League, and the Veterans Services. And the town facility also acts as a non-medical emergency center should we have a disaster. IT, Department Head Lloyd Reisenberg. Using technology, we strive to minimize the organizational overhead and maximize resources devoted to the direct improvement of our public services. We are continually evaluating and reviewing opportunities for information to be shared by the town and other organizations and the general public. This foresight helps us to be fiscally responsible as it relates to the maintenance of our information systems while attempting to increase productivity. In all situations, it's our goal to maximize accuracy and improve public service through the use of technology in the face of ever-changing requirements, increased demands, increased overhead, and increasing security concerns. And Lloyd Reisenberg, the head of that department, will be leaving at the end of the year also. Justice Court, Department Head Leon Riley. During 2024 calendar year, the court processed over 3,200 traffic, criminal, and code violations with over 570,000 in fines and fees collected. There were 1,616 parking tickets issued in Southold town with over $120,000 in fines collected. The village of Greenport issued 123 parking tickets with over $12,000 in fines collected. The justices heard and handled 78 civil, small claims, landlord-tenant cases. Land Management Coordination and GIS, Department Head John Stepanowski. This department has provided great oversight and help with the management of our preserved lands, including mapping, cleanups, and engaging volunteers to help as stewards. He works with all departments very well on all of our mapping needs. Land Preservation Department, Department Head Lillian McCullough. continues to actively engage landowners in both open space and farmland preservation. In 2024, 38 acres were protected as farmland, 8 acres protected as open space, and 32 acres protected as open space in partnership with Suffolk County. When you preserve farmland, the town has no management responsibility, the land stays productive and pays taxes. Preserving farmland is vital to our food security in the future. If all of our land is paved over, we will be dependent on what other countries for food. We have such a valuable resource in our productive soils that we need to protect them. Preservation of open space acts as a recharge for stormwater, doesn't cause light or noise pollution. When we preserve open space, we have areas for coastal resiliency, aquifer recharge, natural habitats, and of course, public access to our beautiful preserved lands. The Planning Department Head Heather Lanza. The Planning Board has been very active with applications and other projects. Some other projects are the housing plans, zoning updates, short-term rentals, and sanitary flow credits. The Police Department. The department head is Steve Gratton, Chief of Police. And I would like to just take a moment to recognize there was a Suffolk County police officer who was shot last night, and we just want to wish him a speedy recovery. All of the town board members are Southold Town Police Commissioners. As such, we have a great deal of oversight over the department. We are fortunate to have a very professional force of men and women who are very well trained and equipped. The body camera program was adopted last year and fully implemented in April of '25. We promoted a new chief of police, Stephen Gratton, hired 5 new police officers and 2 public safety dispatchers. The department works closely with other East End departments and the Suffolk County Police Department on public safety matters, including event safety, strategies, radio communications, arson, homicide, and the drug task force. We take public safety very seriously. The average response time in Southold is 3 minutes. Receiver of taxes. The department head is Kelly Fogarty. The tax receiver and office staff continue to work hard to process tax collections. In-house collections are a big part, but online payment is now an option. The Recreation Department. Department head is Janet Douglas. The Town of Southold's Recreation Department aims to improve the health and quality of life of our residents by offering low-cost recreational and enrichment opportunities to our community members. In addition to programming, the Recreation Department also oversees the scheduled use of our parks, beaches, and recreational buildings. The department is responsible for securing the county permits and staffing the town's bathing beaches. The summer would not be the same without the town's swimming lessons. The lessons are not only a rite of passage, but extremely important to our community's safety. 2 American Red Cross certified swim instructors were hired and provided 94 children and youth this life-saving course this year. Our inventories of town fields and parks also saw a high level of use in 2024. The town hosted soccer, Little League, women's softball, and our local collegiate baseball team, the North Fork Ospreys. Several pickleball fundraisers also took place at Tasker Park. Local school groups also enjoyed our parks as they were used as a destination for field trips and annual end-of-the-year celebrations. Solid Waste District, Department Head Nick Krupski. And this number surprised me, 95,400 residents and guests brought material over the scale. Tonnage is up 6%. That's a lot of trips in 1 year. They collected 2,230 tons of household recyclables, taking great interest in our high recycling rates. Took in 8,150 tons of brush, and 5,230 tons of leaves were processed into compost. 975 tons of brush taken in free of charge during the amnesty period every year. 4 collection events totaling 30 tons of hazardous waste were collected, and that's a collaboration with New York State DEC. And 3 paper shredding events are held for town residents. Town Attorney Code Enforcement, the department head is Paul DeChance. The Department of Law acts as general legal counsel to all government entities within the town the primary function of providing legal advice. The department drafts documents, proposes laws and resolutions, enforces town code, prosecutes violations, defends lawsuits, negotiates contracts and agreements, facilitates the purchase of properties, provides human resource services, investigates workplace incidents, addresses union complaints, and provides required workplace training. Last year, 25 local laws were drafted by the law department and enacted into law by the town board. This is a short list of them. Law number 9 enacted new chapter 234. It's a speedies permit regarding discharge of pollutants into waters of the state. Law number 10, new chapter for number 235, storm sewer regulations relating to the state's MS4 program. And law number 11, updating chapter 236, stormwater management, erosion and sediment control to include current requirements of New York State law. We are compelled to partner with New York State on some of this reporting, and it doesn't always serve to increase, in my opinion, water quality. It's a state requirement that is unfunded, and we have to do it, we have to react to it. There's a great deal of time and staff time spent on doing so, but we will comply. Local law number 12 was the hotel moratorium. Local law number 6 was the extension of the battery energy storage moratorium. Those two moratoriums, I think one of them will be ending soon when the zoning update's done. The battery storage one, there was a task force that did a very good job making recommendations, and that is still a lot of debate surrounding battery storage in town. I do communicate on a regular basis with the other supervisors, and the other towns are trying to figure out the best way of trying to be more energy sufficient and sustainable, and yet mitigate the concerns about battery storage in your community. So there's more to be said on that. Local law number 19, piercing the tax cap. Local law number 20, loitering law. Let me get everyone to move along here. Local number 22, technical consultant fee reimbursement, which is a local law providing the right of the reimbursement to the town of Southold on all technical consultant fees. And local law number 16, zoning, which was a local law removing the requirement that legally existing accessory structures rendered in the side yard due to additions or alterations necessitate going to the zoning board. That actually cuts the red tape. Town clerk, department head, Dennis Noncaro. The town clerk's office is responsible for recording all vital records, activities of town government, as well as storing the documents that are important to the lives of our residents. The office manages the new Civic Plus to create and maintain agendas and minutes. They have issued vehicle permits for waste disposal, almost 10,000, and parking, over 16,000. And is in the process of creating and obtaining quotes for the 26-27 permits, which will be ready for issuance mid-December. Town historian, department head, Amy Folk. A great resource and collaborator with the historical societies and others. She's active in planning the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence for the town and working in collaboration with Suffolk County. Zoning Board of Appeals, department head, Leslie Weissman. Is Leslie here? Leslie is here, I'm sorry, I forgot to recognize you. Leslie and her board processed 112 applications in 2024 in regular coordination with many other departments, such as planning, trustees, town attorney, and building department. All of this happens in Southold, which as residents we all enjoy and appreciate. I want to thank all the dedicated, hardworking employees. Thanks to my wife, Mary, and my 3 children, Nick, Colleen, and Kim, and our 9 grandchildren, who provide continuous support and inspiration. Thanks to my capable staff, Lauren Standish and Michelle Tomaszewski, who you met as you came in, for keeping the office organized, not just today, but every day, enabling the collaboration and communication with all town departments and our other municipal partners. They work very hard and they are very organized, and I do appreciate their work. Thanks to all the residents who appreciate this town so much that they care enough to not only provide input, but to volunteer for many of our committees. Our town isn't an accident. Decades of planning and hard decisions have shaped what we are today. And I will continue to work for you to retain the character of our town and our town as a community. There's a set of questions here, if anyone has any questions. Who's my favorite board member? Yes, Alan.
My name's Alan Connell. I read an interesting article in Newsday today about the big state grant that is being provided for upgrades of septic systems. And it looked like individual homeowners would be eligible for like $35,000 to upgrade their systems. Will the town be doing anything to encourage people that live along the coast to put these systems in and reduce the nitrogen load going into their shores?
Thank you, Alan Connell from Southold. I know about Alan for a long time. So years ago, the county embarked on basically your cesspool is a hole in the ground that all your waste goes into, and it goes directly into our drinking water. And so years ago, the county embarked under Steve Ballone as county executive to try to upgrade these into a different system that would treat the waste a lot better. These are expensive systems, and there's a lot of different technologies that it's used all over the world. Suffolk County initiated a pilot and testing program for these. And then once they were piloted and tested to the health department's satisfaction, then they were permitted for use. Southold Town got in early on this. The town trustees issuing wetland permits were able to require these systems because they are right along the coast, and the travel time for that effluent into the wetlands, of course, is very short. The planning department did as well for any new subdivisions requiring that. I sit on the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Board of Trustees as the East End Mayors and Supervisors representative. There are 21 board members. We had our last, it was a virtual meeting yesterday, but I've been going to Hawk to meet with other representatives, and it's environmental groups, it's people from the health department, people from county DPW, as well as building trades are there. So it's a nice diverse group. The 8% tax that got voted on and is being collected today, starting March 1st this year, is supposed to go towards water quality restoration. So what we're trying to decide as a board, we're making recommendations of projects that are gonna go before the Suffolk County Legislature for approval. The estimate, because it's sales tax, it's an estimate, will be about $40 to $60 million a year collected. The provision in the law, the state enabled the law, is that the payroll can be taken out of that, and that's important because in order to have these new systems permitted, you need to go to the health department, you need to have enough staff there who understands it, you need to have a program to train the installers so they're licensed, so they know how to install these systems. So there's a lot of infrastructure that went into this over the years and was developed. So the way the law was originally written, a lot of the money would go towards these innovative systems, the replacement of innovative systems. And in Suffolk County, there's about 360,000 existing cesspools. You also have about 24 county-owned sewage treatment plants that are in good repair and very professionally run and are very expensive to run. You also have about 140 other sewage treatment plants in the county that are somewhat like Riverhead, Greenport, and there's a lot of private ones also. So how do you fund these, and how do you, moving forward, how do you have enough money to make those, help those all that, not only conversion of the existing cesspools, but also fund some of the improvements in infrastructure to existing sewage treatment plants. In the law, there is money guaranteed, and we haven't voted on this yet, but we're getting very close. And we put it off for 2 weeks, but I believe we'll vote in 2 weeks to part of it is a fair amount of the money goes towards replacement of existing septic systems. So right now, it's a voluntary program. There was talk, for 10 years on how to increase the conversion of a standard septic system. We embarked as a county on a subground watershed study. There's about 180 subground watersheds in the county. Of course, in Southold, we have quite a few of them because of all our creeks and bays. So how do you, and they mark the travel time of the effluent into our estuaries. So the priorities are the closest travel time for that effluent. So how do we prioritize them is going to be, there's a priority schedule in place, but how do we accelerate that replacement program remains to be seen. I think they can replace about 1,500 a year is the goal, with permitting and whatnot. There was a few stumbling blocks there, but everyone's looking to see how, if there's funding there, that replacement could be accelerated. And there's also funding there to help with the maintenance and upkeep of those.
So I just want to appreciate the incredible complexity of your job, the number of things that you have to deal with, and thank you so much for this report.
Thank you.
I also want to commend the Southold Township for putting an irrigation plan into place. You voted on that this week, I think.
Thank you.
The danger to the aquifer on the North Fork is really serious. And in that regard, I wanted to ask about the hotel moratorium.
Sure.
I don't actually know anything about that, and to say that, I appreciate that we've taken a first step on, controlling irrigation. We are, of course, the enforcement of that provision is gonna be a little bit complicated. I don't know how you plan to do that. And, on Young's Road in Orient, where I used to live, 2 new swimming pools have just gone in. Can we consider that might not be the best idea for a region whose aquifer is endangered? And then also, I just wanna put in a little plug, because we live on Truman's Path, and our sign disappeared and nobody can find our house. Could you please ask somebody to restore the sign for Truman's Path?
See the highway department making notes there. It's a good time to ask that question. So as far as the irrigation law goes, I worked with LICAP, Long Island Commission on Aquifer Protection, for years, and we met in Hong Kong for many years, and water conservation was a hot topic. USGS is doing a water study for Long Island, starting in the city, because the water aquifer is in much worse place in further west you go, because a lot of their areas are paved over. A lot of this storm water, all the rainwater gets discharged directly into the bays. And couple that with a lot of the western island is sewered, and so all that sewage waste gets pumped out into the ocean. That's how the systems were designed. There's so much volume of fresh water being pumped out into the ocean that there's not enough rainfall to replenish the aquifer. So USGS started its study on the west end of the island in the city, Nassau, Western Suffolk, and it finally ended up here in Southold this year. I contacted the school. The school was generous enough in Oyster Pond to allow for the USGS to drill a well down there. They went down over 600 feet, so they could do a complete analysis of the water table there. They also have a way of putting like a wire on the ground for conductivity, and they can measure the chlorides in the water at what depth, so they know where the salt water interface is. And so they haven't issued a report yet for Southold town, but we're in contact with them and they're working on it. And there's the Water Advisory Committee in Southold really pushed hard to have more work done if USGS could do it, and he's gonna get back to me on what else he can do. So we really have a good idea of our aquifer. We need more information to really know what we're working with. And as far as the irrigation goes, so sitting on LICAP for years, and one of the voting members was Nassau Suffolk Lawn Irrigation Specialist. And they really are concerned, the professionals are concerned about water use also, because they're professionals. And they recognize that the lawn shouldn't be watered when it's raining. And then that's a huge savings if you don't, and this is what this law that we passed, it's the basics. It won't water your lawn automatically when it's raining. Certainly, a farmer is not gonna spend diesel or gas and labor and wear your equipment out to water their crops if it's not necessary, and you're trying to grow a crop for economic reasons. So to have an automatic lawn sprinkler system set up, people might not even be there, and it goes on when it's raining, and we've all seen it. That's what this will prevent. And the professionals are there to help people understand that. They're advocates for water conservation.
Hi, based on that, you drive by these, these sod farms, and you see, besides just the sheer volume of water that they're putting out, you see a lot of the chemicals they're putting down, the herbicides, pesticides. What kind of testing is being done in the aquifers as far as that?
Well, agriculture is very heavily regulated when it comes to crop protection and plant protection. So they have to be, I have a license in my pocket, it looks like a New York State driver's license.
Yeah, I do too.
So I'm a licensed pesticide applicator. And so they're regulated like everybody else. And they're careful. You know, someone said to me years ago, and Mary was laughing because of the answer I gave, you know, they were worried about the water quality, and I said, well, why would I be worried about your water quality? You're my neighbor. We live here. Don't you think we're worried about it more than anybody? So there's been a big change in the way crop protectants are used, whether it's fungicides or insecticides, and everybody's very conscious of that. Yes, sir.
At a recent meeting of the Peconic Civic Association, when we were talking about water, there was mention about this proposed pipeline that they would hope could go through in the future. And during the course of that meeting, it was mentioned that the town of Southold is providing water for swimming pools in Shelter Island. Could you explain that situation to me?
So the Suffolk County Water Authority issues hydrant permits to people to withdraw water. And that's something that the Water Committee is considering right now.
They're doing it now.
Well, they're considering if we should oppose it.
I see, thank you.
Now, having conversations in the past with Suffolk County Water Authority, because you can pump your private well into a hydrant, right? I mean, into a tanker now. But having conversations in the past with the water vendor, they say that there's areas in town that aren't stressed, that they have no problem pumping more water, and that's not a lot of water that's leaving the aquifer. But we want to, I think, look into it a little closer to see which hydrants they're using and which hydrants they say are stressed and how much water is actually being withdrawn. Well, it is our, thank you, good point. They are in fact selling our water. They are pumping it and they are treating it to drinkable standards, but it is our water.
The draft zoning update that we've all been, many of us have been looking at for a couple of months, does exclude restaurants and retail stores in the new business zone, the business corridor business, I think, that are provided in each of the hamlets. But the board, as I understand it, has rejected that, even though I think it's intended to reduce suburban sprawl in our area. Can you explain why that proposal has been rejected?
I think there's been, listening to all the concerns at all the community meetings, I think there was a general consensus that the businesses that are operating now in those uses, whether it's restaurant or retail, would like to continue those uses, and that they are in fact part of our community today, and that having those uses continue would just maintain the level of traffic, but also the level of services that those businesses provide. So there's other protections in place as far as intensity of use, or building on or expanding, and of course renovations that the town has control of. But as far as the uses go, I think there was a lot of consensus to continue to allow those because they are existing today.
One of the aspects of, or one of the features of the business corridor district was that it would be possible to have construction of housing, whether multiple dwellings or single dwellings. Will that be retained even if the
believe there's any decision made on that. However, if you look at that as an option for that parcel of land, and if you look at zoning, you can't look at like the individual owner, right? Because everybody's gonna move on at some point. You have to look at that parcel of land and look at what it looks like land use wise. And so to provide that option for housing there gives the owner another option in their like bundle of rights on that property and provides them with an opportunity in the future. So that's not, I think that's something that we're really strongly considering.
So I really appreciated the work that's being done by the county and the state to start looking at raising our two big roads because of climate change. But I'm wondering if the town is starting to plan for our roads, because the same issues that address 25 and 48, you know, Nassau Point looks like it's gonna become an island maybe,
Mhm.
you know, New Suffolk is in trouble. And these are huge dollar items that
Okay.
Southold isn't gonna be able to just pay for on its own. So what, if anything, is the town doing or thinking of doing so that we have the resources we need over time to deal with this?
We started mapping over a year and a half ago. So we have a map, we've documented and field tested those areas during storms and during, moon tides and king tides. So we have an accurate map of flooding, areas that are prone to flooding. We've had 2 meetings with the local fire departments because we wanna make sure emergency rescue can get through areas, especially if there's an alternate route. We don't want people, and I've heard it from the highway department, they put up barricades when the road floods. The first person moves the barricade, everyone else comes through and sees the barricade move and just drives through the floodwaters. So we're working on educating everyone. These areas are prone to flooding, don't drive through it. You have an alternate route that you don't have to drive through there. But as far as the actual raising of the roads, unfortunately, that's what we're looking at also. The county, when we did our coastal resiliency plan, was only for county infrastructure. We're doing one just for town infrastructure. We're trying to get the state on board to do one for their state infrastructure. It's the same problem.
Sure, we're such a small budget compared to the others. I didn't know what we were thinking about.
We are thinking about it, and we have to prioritize, right? And that's that's gonna be the key, and that's why the county study was so important, because it really prioritized County Road 48 in the whole county as being one of the top 3 priorities.
I'm relatively new here in town planning, and I was wondering about the traffic circle that's down on Main Street, I believe, and why we were getting a traffic circle rather than a traffic light.
Well, I hope we're getting a traffic circle soon. Doesn't seem to me. So that was a project started by State Senator Ken LaValle a long time ago. And I was chair of Suffolk County DPW. The county roads ends just to the west of there, so it's only a state project. There had been a traffic circle there years ago, and it made sense to have a circle rather than a light. Circles do keep the traffic flowing quite well. The state and county engineers have acknowledged that the circles are pretty successful. So we hope they finish it soon. They chopped it up and left. I'm not sure what happened.
Supervisor, I've been a resident of town of Southold for about 3 years now, and I'm very happy. And I've seen the Southold Town Police engage with the community in a very positive way in a couple of instances. And it's really been very positive to see that. Just for clarification, I know this is a controversial subject, but could you clarify what the relationship is between the Southold Town Police and the ICE agents that may come?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. So those are federal agents, and actually, I was on the town board years ago, and the ICE agents came out at one point, and they conducted some sort of activity in Greenport. And this was going back to police chiefs. And it was made very clear to us that they're federal agents, they don't want any local involvement. They're afraid that local involvement would interfere with their operations and possibly endanger the community or themselves. And so when they come in, they plan their events, they don't inform the local police department because they don't want to, and it's same really with the DEC enforcement. The DEC comes in and enforces hunting or fishing laws. They don't do anything towards informing the local law enforcement either. They just come in and they do their job.
Al, we've had a comprehensive plan now for 15 years, and we have a set of goals in that comprehensive plan. I think there's 13 of them right now, and I think they're really good goals, and one of the goals seems to point towards having hamlet centers that would, keep our rural identity, because everybody loves the town of Southold the way it is. Nobody really wants it to change too much. But if we give back, if we give back uses, I mean, I can understand that Braun's is already there and they have a restaurant, and, across the street from King Cullen, should be allowed to do stuff there, and that's not really in the center of the hamlet. But, where we have other areas, like where McDonald's is, and gateways to Mattatuck and the gateway to Greenport, if we don't enforce the uses that the comprehensive plan implies in its goals, because everybody's gonna complain that they want the most use out of their property, and, wants to be able to sell it to whoever they can for the highest bidder, how are we ever gonna avoid the urban sprawl that will stop us from looking like the rest of Long Island, which is, I think, what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to not turn into Lindenhurst,
No, that's a good question, and we have considered that, pretty thoughtfully, because we do want to avoid that sprawl, we do want to avoid the strip mall look. But I think what the town board's going to do now, I know what we're gonna do, we're gonna come up with planning board's collating all the information that we receive from everyone. And then the town board's gonna have to make some decisions, and when we make some decisions, we're gonna put that back out to the public and say, this is the draft, this is the original zoning, and these are the changes. It's gonna be somewhere else out there. So then we'll receive more input on those proposed changes. So there's certain areas that are of concern, I think, especially as far as traffic, as far as visually, you mentioned a gateway, and I think people are very conscious of the look of the gateways. I think we can address most of those things with design standards, if something's built or rebuilt, so that it will have a appropriate look for commercial development. On the other hand, those uses are the ones that we're going to debate.
If we, give people all of the uses that they ask for in one zone, then don't we have to give the people in all of the other zones where uses have been changed, the uses that we're taking away from them also?
Well, there's a lot in it for other zones also, and one of the things that's in it for other zones is like the bulk schedule for each use. So right now, the way the board considers it, if you had, for instance, is a winery and they can't use the old farmhouses housing legally, the changes that are gonna be put in there allow them to use that existing house, as a residence. So there are a lot of things in there for businesses that are pretty positive. It's not just all taking, by the way. And we're trying to also provide opportunities for housing for every business, so that every business will have some sort of a caretaker's unit as of right. They have to, New York State building standards.
If we're gonna keep, Southold looking the way we want it to look in the future, everybody's gotta give up a little bit and not be really greedy about having, all of the possibilities that their property can be, so that it can maximize its real estate value. We need to compromise a little bit and not be so greedy so that we can have a beautiful place to live. Otherwise, we're just gonna end up looking like the rest of Long Island.
No, thank you. We don't want we don't want to lose our character. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.